Hello, I'm Susan Elliott, the news editor of Musical America. Today we're going to be speaking with Brian Prechtl. Brian has been a percussionist with the Baltimore Symphony for 17 years, and he is the chairman of the Players Committee, as well as being a delegate to the International Conference of Symphony and Opera Musicians, aka ICSOM. 2 years ago, the Baltimore Symphony was facing some major financial troubles, and management had one solution and the players had another, and never the twain shall meet. Last September, they managed to come up with a 5-year contract with which everyone seems quite happy, and which enables them to emerge from the pandemic with a plan that makes a lot of sense. Brian's going to tell us how that works. First, let me say welcome and thank you for talking to us. As I think I've told you, we haven't really talked to anybody who is a performer that is in a union. And with all of the conversations going back and forth, and especially here in New York with a certain opera house, eager to hear what you all have been thinking about, and also very eager to hear how you managed to negotiate an agreement that went from a 40-week season to a 5-year plan. That's pretty remarkable, really remarkable. So why don't we start with just bringing me up to date on what you and the musicians in Baltimore have been up to lately in terms of pandemic activities?
Sure. So thanks for having me, Susan. It's really great to actually talk to you face to face. We've been in touch before. It is amazing what's happened in Baltimore. I have to say, it is a turnaround like nothing I could have even imagined in my wildest dreams when we were actually, walking the picket line in the summer of 2019. And how we got back on the stage was actually a very complicated and a little bit convoluted process, but it was born out of determination. And I think the determination was something that we had in common, at least the leadership of the BSO, including our board chair, Barry Rosen, and our CEO, Peter Chomey, and the musicians had in common. And that was sort of a realization that we needed to work together. We needed to collaborate. And I had been talking to a lot of people during that very difficult summer. And I got some great advice. I talked to leaders in different orchestras, particularly Philip Fisher, who was the board chair in Detroit when they went through some of their difficult things.
Right.
And you probably know Philip.
I do, yeah.
And he told me that what really was the difference for them was when they realized that they had to have all the members of the family at the table when the decision-making happened. When they came to that realization, everything changed for them in Detroit. And I really realized that was really going to be the thing that changed for us here in Baltimore too. It was difficult. I won't say it was easy, because it was really important that we didn't sort of sink further down in terms of the comparison of our salary to our peer orchestras, because we do exist in a marketplace, really. So we found what we could agree on, and we all agreed that we love the BSO, we wanted it to succeed, and we wanted to find a new way to work together, and that's what we did. And out of that very difficult time, we agreed on having something called the Vision Committee, which actually is a group of all the stakeholders that come together. It's still in existence now, and we meet on a regular basis and do things like strategic planning. And that's what we did this last year.
And that includes musicians, that committee.
It includes musicians, board members, staff, endowment trust members, and community members. So we really tried to get all the important players together. We started it in the fall of 2019, and we got back on stage and we got
Right.
this weird 1 year agreement, but we knew we had to
Right.
get a long-term agreement. So we got back on stage, started playing, and luckily around the same time, we had gotten some funding through the state of Maryland, but along with the funding, it was mandated that there be a work group. So Senator Ed Casemeyer, who's just a great guy, headed up that committee and got us together, sort of the same players, really to talk about, what went wrong and how can we make it right. And while doing that work, we brought in some great thinkers, and one of those was Michael Kaiser. I know you've spoken to Michael, and Michael was so pivotal. He helped get us even more on the same page, and his concepts of putting the music first and creating the cycle that he's written about extensively was really effective here. People really got it. And he came and helped us write a 5-year strategic plan and helped us raise $10 million, which we did in luckily, the first 8 weeks of 2020. Right before the pandemic hit, we suddenly raised all this money and we were just like in great shape. And
Wow.
it was just incredibly great timing. It was an easy sell for the musicians because Michael really concentrated on the art and
Yes,
and
he does.
yeah, you get us with that because that's what
Yep.
we love. That's who we are. That's our reason to be. And actually, our management and board really appreciated Michael as well. Plus, he is great at raising money. I got to tell you, he's a
His
real
secret
salesman.
weapon, right?
Yeah. And so, once that started, we were like, whew, okay, I think we could do this. But then we had to start the really difficult work of coming to an agreement. And just as we were about to start, bam, COVID hits. And we
Right.
had to shut everything down. But we were so enthusiastic about our plan that we thought, look, let's just stay the course. And while everyone else was sort of really going into hibernation mode and just really shutting down, we just quietly got together every week. We started on March 20th, and by August 27th, I mean it took a long time. We actually had come to terms on a 5-year agreement during the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it's miraculous, but I still credit this spirit of collaboration and understanding that all of the stakeholders need to be involved for it to be successful, and it really worked for us.
It
Yeah,
seems to me that without that kind of mutual admiration, collaboration, respect that you're talking about, we're really going to be in trouble trying to get out of this pandemic.
I totally agree. Look, I think that's born out of many years of, that's the way we've always done it. And I think it worked for a while. I think it worked back in the heyday of unions and back when orchestras were really fighting to be
Right.
recognized for who they are and how much they bring to a community. It was effective. But I just don't think that's the way these days. And I definitely don't think it's the way right now and
Right.
moving forward. And I think if you look around the country right now and see the places where it's going well, you can see that there's this mutual respect and an understanding that we're all in this together. I did watch your interview with Kim Noltemi from Dallas, and
Right.
I got to tell you, there I saw this spirit.
Yes.
And you see the places where it's not going well,
Oh, yeah.
and you see that it seems absent.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think this year is going to teach us a lot of lessons. So I would look for a real shift, um, moving out of the pandemic, and a realization that if you can find a way to work together, you will find success for everybody. So I do think there's a shift going on right now all over the place.
So you took a course
Mhm.
for the league, from the
Yeah.
league, and did it not change your point of view a little?
It
Or did
actually
it?
did change my point of view a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't for that course, I don't think that I could have become the leader that I have been over the last year and a half. And I don't think that could have, you know, come off of a lockout where there's such bitterness and the tendency to want to assign blame and really immediately think about what does it look like from the CEO's seat? What does it look like from the general manager's seat? To
Right.
really sit there, because I sat down in the middle of this emerging leaders program and looked around the room, and I'm like, wow, I'm the only non-management person in this room. What am I doing here? But in the end, I gained so much understanding of how to be a leader, and the people in that room became some of my best friends, and we still stay in touch. And I actually learned really that we all want the same things, and
Right.
that it's a very difficult role to be in the management point of view.
We
You
should
can
mention too that this is the League of American Orchestras. They give a, what is it, 6-week course?
well, the course was actually a year long,
Oh,
and you actually go for several different like weekend sorts of retreat sessions, and then you participate in the midweek convention, midwinter convention, and then at the end. Now, of course, ours got cut short because of the pandemic. I think that more musicians should participate in these programs. I think it would help us all understand each other better
right.
and start to speak the same language. So yeah, great
Yeah.
idea. I'll bring
Okay.
it up.
So tell me what's going on in Baltimore in terms of the coming out of the pandemic. You all are still doing,
Yeah,
are you
we're
in the
very
hall,
active.
but you're recording in the hall, but
We are
streaming?
very active. Actually, we're recording 30 episodes of our sessions series, and that they're being recorded in the hall, and then people can buy them. But they're not just concerts. They're sort of like not, I wouldn't say reality TV, but there's interviews, and they really are. They have a narrative. Each one has a narrative and is on a different subject. That's not here's a concert.
Right,
So
right.
that's primarily what the orchestra is doing. Those are the musicians who have been comfortable to come back to the hall and play on stage, who don't have high risk conditions that precluded them from doing that. There are others who are working from home. We have an incredibly varied and rich offstage part of our website, and we're
Mm.
also using it for donor. Driving development money. I mean, I got to tell you, one other big lesson for every orchestra in this country is how donors have stepped up during this time. I mean, we have always thought that this piece of the pie, this earned income, or we would never survive without this 30%. And I mean, let's be honest, it's not easy, but I can't tell you how our donor community has stepped up, and just how good the orchestra is doing this year in terms of the finances. It's been remarkable. Now, of course, the PPP money helped a lot, but it is actually really staying in touch with our donors and giving them a look behind the curtain and a connection to the musicians, and really fostering a sense of family.
So you guys are literally like calling up donors and saying, hey, this is Brian. How do you feel about giving us some money today?
Yeah,
Wow.
some of us are doing that. Some of us are writing letters. Some of us are recording videos that go out with like a little bit of playing along with it. We even have
Yeah.
this. Some of our older donors are not that tech savvy, so we actually even have a hotline where they could just pick up the phone and call, and they'll hear me saying, "Hey, good morning. I'm going to play a little Bach for you today. We can't wait to see you back at the hall."
Yeah.
So, you just try to stay in touch with people, think of it like a
Yeah.
family.
Oh, that all sounds so good.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
mean, it sounds just so different from where you all were.
It is. It's night and day. I have to say that. Right now, we're just playing with strings and percussion. The city of Baltimore is being very restrictive as to what they're allowing, and
Right.
right now they don't want to have any unmasked musicians. Although for part of the season we were playing up till November, we were playing with some winds even. Actually,
That.
we don't use that. We don't use plexiglass, and the reason is that we have talked to a lot of actually HVAC experts. We actually went to the fluid dynamics department at the University of Maryland, and they have done all kinds of modeling, and they say that really the best protection are the HVAC systems in your building. And by putting up plexiglass, it actually interrupts the flow of the way the air normally flows up and away from the musicians on the stage. So we were told not to use plexiglass.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I have to praise you guys on coming up with this amazing agreement.
We did take on average 33% cut this year, although some members, some of the higher paid members that have overscale are taking enormous cuts this
I'll
year.
bet they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but everybody understood that it was important that we show that we're willing to help the institution, and
right.
by extending it out to a 5-year contract, we could get some of the pay back by the end. That helps us remain competitive with our peer orchestra group. That's really important. And the other thing that allows us a 5-year contract to do is build up the complement. We're very depleted right now. I mean, normally there was a day when the Baltimore Symphony played with 96 full-time musicians plus 2 librarians. And right now this year we're at 74 musicians and 2 full-time librarians. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
dramatic. And we're going to build that up over the next, 4 or 5 years till we're
Yeah.
back in the mid 80s. And,
Yeah.
that's really good for us.
So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm so eager to hear all the different sides of the stories, because there are a lot of them out there. And sounds like you should sort of make the rounds and get in touch with all of your colleagues, tell them how to make it work.
Well, we talk a lot at ICSOM, and that's great. And actually, I'm talking to a lot of people where they're having some trouble. They sometimes call up, but I just can't encourage both musicians and managements both to recognize that we are stronger when we work together. We've got to create this new paradigm together. If either side resorts to this adversarial approach, it's not going to benefit the institution, and it's not going to help with fundraising either. Funders want to see orchestras find a new way to work together. They want to see orchestras and all our arts institutions, because this is going to be tough coming out of this pandemic. Although we do think there's a tremendous appetite for being back, and hearing live music. So I think we're going to see people really excited once we get through it. But, this is going to leave in its wake some real challenges financially that can only be solved when institutions work collaboratively. And,
Right.
we got to just wear the masks and be patient. We'll find a way. Music always does.
It's great. So thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It was great to talk to you. I
Good
really
to talk to you
appreciate
too.
it.